Bronson Hill from Cash Flow Mentor. Today we're going to talk about how to vet a real estate syndicator and why that's important. So the first thing to take note of is why it's important to vet a syndicator well. If somebody's going to be taking money from you, they're going to be taking money and doing something with it, almost all of your control is on the front end of that. So if you're going to do any diligence, you're going to do any work, literally you're signing a check, you're sending a check to somebody, and you're not going to see that money, or you may not see any money or some money for years, potentially as much as 5 to 7 years before you get your investment back. So it's really important to take your time, really make sure you're comfortable with somebody, you understand the investment, you understand the person. But I'm going to talk specifically about a syndicator, the person, and how to really vet that person well. So the first thing is really I would suggest is to talk to multiple syndicators. So you want to kind of meet different people that are doing the same thing. You want to understand what makes them different. Some people will give you they'll say I'm going to give you, be a 10% annual return. Some people say it's a 20% or a 15% annual return. You want to kind of know generally what returns should be in that market. You generally want to know what the fees are because syndicators or somebody organizing the investment, they're always going to take a fee. So you're going to want to know about that. So when you talk to different syndicators, you're going to kind of get a feel for what to expect, also as far as communication and how often you're going to get notified about your investment. Another thing really that's important is track record. You're going to want to know how many times this syndicator has done different deals. So if this is their first deal, I'd be very cautious. I'd be very wary of that. If they've done 20 deals over the last 10 years and they can show a track record as far as this is what's happened, this is what I did, this was my best case scenario, I doubled money in 2 years, well that's great. What's the worst case scenario? I actually honestly like to hear often more about mistakes and how people failed in some ways and see what they learned from that. So I think it's just looking the track record as a whole and kind of getting a sense for, okay, here's a range of between this and this of kind of what to expect. Ask if they ever lost money, and then you want to go back and scrutinize and say, okay, what can I learn from just what this person has told me about it? Now, in addition to that, another thing that's important is looking at how much their fees are and how the equity split. And what an equity split is, let's say the project is buying an apartment building for $5 million, and at the end of 5 years, now it's worth $10 million. How do you split that $5 million in profit? What I would say is it's common to have a 70-30 or 80-20 split. So what that means is with a 70-30, 70% of the profits go to the limited partners, which are someone like yourself who's a passive investor investing in the deal. The other 30% will go to the general partner or the general partners that have helped manage, find, and on an ongoing basis worked with that asset. So if it's something like a 50-50 or 60-40, that's not as favorable than I believe like a 70-30, 80-20. Sometimes you'll hear about an 85-15 split. So it's just something to take note of. I would say obviously the higher the better, and also the overall return is important to look at. So another thing is really to look at what is the criteria that is being used for selecting deals. So why are they choosing this certain location? Where is it going to be? What are the things that they invest in? Do they do what's called a value add? Do they buy something in a certain neighborhood and they're going to fix it up and they're going to increase rents? Like what is the business plan for this? Are they doing student housing? You want to understand kind of what they do and how familiar they are with that market and why they're choosing that particular plan to go for it. In addition to that, you also want to understand what are the risks. So if you've ever read what's called a PPM or a private placement document, a private placement memorandum, that will show you all the ways that you could lose money. And it's just important to be familiar with what could go wrong in this deal, because in any investment deal you can lose money. So it's just important to understand what are the risks of this deal, what are some things, if it goes great, it's going to be here, if it goes terrible, it's going to go here, and hopefully you're still going to make money in both of those scenarios. But it's just important to look at the risks, feel like you have a good understanding and you're comfortable with those risks. One of the most important things that I found is how conservatively is the deal underwritten. And what I mean by conservative and underwritten is when you look at a deal, you're going to make certain assumptions based on, okay, this property it costs this much. If we put this much into improvements, then we're going to be able to increase rents by X amount per month, and then they will increase the value of the property by this much. So you can make assumptions that are like, yes, we're going to be able to improve the value of this property, and rents are going to go up 10% per year every year for the next 5 years. Well, that sounds like a pretty aggressive assumption. Maybe 2% or 3% is a better way to make an assumption on that. And that's not just with how much rents are going to go up, how much income is going to rise, but it could be with how you're going to reduce expenses, how you're going to look at other things. So some of the best syndicators I've seen, they'll kind of say, we see there is opportunity in these certain areas. We're not 100% sure on it, so we haven't built it into the model. We've kind of done it pretty conservatively, but if we're able to achieve these things, then it will actually perform better than what we say. So again, just looking at how conservatively is everything underwritten, and that's important for you as a passive investor to get into those numbers. Another question is, do they close? And what I mean by that, does the syndicator have a track record of closing on the deals that they take money for? I know some syndicators they're trying to raise money and they haven't been able to close on every investment they take money for. One syndicator that I know that I really like is basically the last several years they've had 10 different multifamily deals that they've done, and they've been able to close on every single one that they've taken investor money on. That's great to me, just to know that, hey, your money's in here, it's not going to just be tied up for 3 to 6 months and then it's going to have to be returned. These are actually deals that are going to close. So that's something that's important to look at. I would also recommend when you're talking to a syndicator, ask to speak to 2 or 3 of their investors that have done multiple deals with them and ask them some of the same questions. How's the communication from the syndicator? What went different than what you expected? What went right? How did this person, the syndicator, respond when something didn't go well? Did they blame others? Did they take responsibility? Did they correct the problem? Did they delay on it? I mean, those are things that are going to be very, very valuable for you to know. And that kind of goes with the next point, which is reputation. Reputation is huge in this industry, and if people are generally trustworthy, or if on the other hand they're generally not trustworthy, those things are going to come out and people are going to talk about them. So I'm not sure, I'm a part of a real estate group in Pasadena, California, and reputation is huge. So if I ask around and I ask some of the leaders for different real estate groups, I say, what do you think about this syndicator? What do you think about this person? There's going to be a lot of information that's going to be shared, and some of it could be good, some of it could be bad. But you want to ask around. You want to find other investors that either have invested in or just have heard things about this person. Also, maybe if you're not in a city area, you can get on Bigger Pockets or some other sites and just ask and kind of search on this person and see what you can find out. Another thing that I look for is, does this syndicator have skin in the game? And what I mean by skin in the game is, are they also investing alongside with you? This would not necessarily preclude me from investing as well, or investing in the deal. It's just something to be aware of. Like if they have money in there as well, they've put their own capital in as well, then they a lot of times are going to be more concerned about losing money, or more concerned about just how that investment does over time. So, and the last thing I wanted to say about all this is, really, when it comes to your money and your investment, no one cares about your money and your investment like you do. So that's why you need to be as diligent as you can on the front end. If you don't understand something, if there's something that it's just not making sense, then you need to try to get clarity. And it's better. Sometimes the best deal is the deal we did not do. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you today. I hope that was of value to you. Love to connect with you. I invite you to come to Cashflow Mentor. The website is growingcashflow.com. I would love to connect with you as an investor. I do a free 15-minute strategy call just to learn about kind of what your goals are, what you're looking to achieve. So you can get on growingcashflow.com and find that. We also have the Cashflow Investment Club, where there are deals that I have personally vetted that I'm investing in as well, that if we have a relationship together, then sometimes we will offer these deals to individuals if it fits their investment criteria. So that's called the Cashflow Investment Club. And then also I have the Cashflow Mentor podcast, where we interview other successful passive income investors or syndicators, just all aspects of passive investing. So thanks so much for taking the time, and have a great day.